So welcome to Unleash Your Play Brain. It's a real treat to do a 20-minute talk. It's actually much harder than a 60-minute talk. So let's see how we go. So there's really only one rule tonight with true play. True play is fair play, safe play, and also risky play and being a good sport. So tonight it's entirely up to you how much you play or how little. And what I encourage you to do is neither accept nor reject what I am proposing this evening, but rather really just think for yourself and try it out. So on that note, if I can invite you to come back onto your feet. Yeah, you know, want to work off that beer, right? And then you can have extra pizza. Okay, but you won't be needing your beer for this. Are we ready? So just put your, it's quite hard with the mic, but put your hands on your hips and we'll just do the hard thing first, shall we? Just rotate your hips one way in case you're partying later, you know. It's Thursday night after all. And then the other way, because your body enjoys the symmetry. Some of you are really getting into this. Okay? Right, let's just do the shoulder rolls. Doesn't matter if it's forwards or backwards, just pick a direction. Great. And then the other way, nice. Oh, feels good, doesn't it? Proper kind of flattened shoulder blades. And then let's just rotate the heaviest part of ourselves, which is the head. So let's do that. Real slow, because it is possibly the most precious bit of you. Okay. And then the other way. Alrighty. Okay, and let's just do some wrist rolls as well. It's actually both hands, it's just do it one way and then the other way. Lovely. So let's take a deep breath in and out. So to be a true leader, you need to have a follower, of course, and good followers are what makes good leaders. So on that note, I propose that you follow me. Raise your hands. Right. 1, 2, 3. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Faster. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Bravo, grab a seat, grab a seat. So for those of us who've played together before, and I recognise quite a few friends, you might say, well, that's the same song you keep doing. Is it a bit overdone? So I consult my in-house play expert, my 7-year-old daughter, and she goes, Mummy, that is still like the bestest song ever. And I'm like, okay, if it's good, then, you know, why fix it? Now, isn't that interesting that we spend all this time thinking about, be it coaching tools, continuous improvement, personal development, and how we measure ourselves so we can be better, when a simple song like Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes quickly reveals that we may have forgotten where our ears are as opposed to where our mouths are or our noses, you know? I mean, we should just do that as part of hiring, don't you think? I think that would be a real test of courage. You know, let's talk about this agile stuff, but actually the real deal. So, today, I'd like to share with you some highlights of the latest play research I'm doing. And this is also a really sort of favourite talk of mine, so I hope you'll play along today. So being a bit of an agile geek, I have written a user story for us for this evening. As a play seeker or play skeptic, you choose. I need ideas on how to play more so that we can all live happily ever after. We're talking about holism, systemic thinking, all that great stuff. So hopefully by the end of our 20 minutes or so together, we'll be able to tick off the success criteria, and you will have had a working knowledge of play. You can explain the importance of play, especially to your managers, because they will be oh so grateful, believe me. You will have hopefully one or more ideas to play, and you've had fun. Shall we give it a go? Yay! Okay. So this talk is actually split into 2 parts. The first part will be about play, and the second part will be about your play future, and that wholly depends on how you play tonight. So let's kick off with play. Did Photobox and the Agile Roundabout mention about this assessment? I've seen these faces before. It's usually when I ask, are we going to meet that deadline by next Wednesday? And how can you possibly not know 3 months ago that we weren't going to make it? But anyway, deep breath in. Let's give it a go anyway, because we're agile. Is that right? Okay, so you are going to be shown a sequence of images, and when you see the image and it evokes the idea of play, you shout play. And if, however, the image evokes not play, then you say nay. Are we ready to play? Yay! Very good. Okay, play or nay? 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 Indeed, that was very existential. Excellent. So computer says, oh, phew, you've passed the play assessment. So this is the thing, right? What did we just do? We baselined our common understanding of play. And this is the really curious thing about play, is that there is no stereotype of play. You can't just look at somebody and go, they look super playful, I'm going to go play with them. Because you cannot tell. Right? People have different hobbies, different interests. What might be, reading the financial papers would be a delight for somebody, might be torture for somebody else. And then it depends on the context or the time of day or the day of the week. Right? So this is the thing. How you play is truly unique to you, and you cannot tell just by looking at somebody. And that's why I love this play stuff so much, because actually it's all about equality. It's about non-judgment. It's about staying with not knowing and keeping your mind open. So, now, as a play researcher, I get asked two most common questions. The first one is, why should I play? So we'll look briefly at the reasons why that is today. But more crucially, what they really mean is it okay if I play? With other adults whilst they're looking, can I even do that at work? Well, listen, only you can give yourself permission to play. Presumably you gave yourself permission to be here tonight. You might have to consult various stakeholders at home and at work, but nonetheless we are responsible for ourselves. So that's a key thing to remember when we play. So what is play? I was traveling back from Chicago many years ago when I was doing some agile training there with some colleagues at a bank, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and I strolled into this toy store because I have this thing about just going to toy stores as work got harder and harder and less agile. And what was curious was that there was a mother there and her son may have been, I don't know, 5, 6, 7-year-old, and she was saying, oh Johnny, it's time to go, they're going to close the store, we need to stop playing. And then what the shopkeeper said? He said, that's okay, we'll close the store when Johnny has finished playing. And I thought, that's fantastic. This is finally a company that says and does what it claims to do. It's pretty hard to find, I find. Anyway, so it was at that point that I came across Dr. Stuart Brown's book on the shelf, and I thought I have to buy this book to support this toy company, because they really walk the walk, and that was really important. And on the ride home, I learned a lot more about play, and this is really what triggered my interest in play research. So Dr. Stuart Brown describes play as seemingly purposeless, voluntary. So this is a big kind of red arrow about the voluntary. What I'm starting to see in the Twitter sphere is Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, doesn't matter who, saying, we are going to make play compulsory. Right? So enforced play is punishment. It is not play. It should always be a choice. And if it isn't a choice, then you should question what that person really understands about play. It's also inherently attractive. So when I live in Milton Keynes, so when I come into London, I deliberately now, as a mum, I deliberately get into a carriage where there's a pushchair. I know that sounds kind of insane, especially first thing on a Monday morning, but I know that the mum or dad who at the other end of the pushchair would kind of value the empathy, but also I get to play with the child, right? I get to smile, I get to do silly faces, and that really just helped restore and remind me of my humanity before I then rocked up at a job where maybe we weren't so kind to each other, right? Time flies by when you're having fun, so a lot of the play science that I refer to here, not in great detail, is actually based on the research by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the guy who wrote the book on flow. And a lot of his flow research comes from actually so-called play practitioners, so sportsmen and different people with different backgrounds, and he was noticing that play actually enables you to flow, and it also helps you maintain it. Another element of play is that it reduces the sense of consciousness. This self-consciousness in particular, this is really important because what it means is you stop worrying about what you look like. It stops you from judging yourself and it stops you from judging other people. So you see my point about the equality element? And this is why play is so great, because it levels the playing field, literally. It's also potential for improvisation. So for those of you who are great problem solvers, and I'm sure you hear, that's why you're here, you're so resourceful, is that improv, right, is how you solve problems. It isn't with big planning or big design up front, because you don't have that crystal ball. And if you did, you wouldn't be here now, would you? Right? And last but not least is desire to keep going. So this is the danger of play. I mean, play is just filled with paradoxes because, you know, we have to practice sustainable pace because you could overplay, right? And you don't want that to cost your job or your life or your health or anything like that. So it's about practicing sustainable pace. So you can start seeing that there's a lot of overlap between agile and play. So why should we play? Well, it turns out that the neuroscientists, the psychologists, the biologists, and the social scientists are now finally converging and agreeing on some key points, and it happens to be about play. So they say that it shapes an organism's brain, which we know, and that's why play is so vital when we have young babies. It makes animals smarter and more adaptable. And actually, when you look at Dr. Stuart Brown's work, it was actually all done in high security prisons where he had to work with these prisoners, and he found that if you didn't play between the ages of 0 to 5 enough, and by play he also included affectionate touch, your brain was much more likely to be 30% smaller, up to 30% smaller, and you were therefore likely also to be underdeveloped in your social skills and other things, and that's how a lot of those prisoners ended up in prison. So you see, when I talk about the paradoxes of play, this is the thing. People think that play is just all happy clappy, but no, when you look deep down, it's so fundamental to who we are in our psyche that it's really vital to understand the importance of play. It also enables us to sustain social relationships. So you must be pretty playful and courageous to come here. You might know some friends, you might not, right? But you're probably pretty good at networking over pizza and beer, and that's great practice. It's about fueling creativity and innovation. So hopefully, if you played enough tonight, then tomorrow you rock up to work feeling kind of recharged and ready to go, even if it's that regular, really boring meeting, right, tomorrow. And they did one experiment in the States with a bunch of rats, and they took a group of rats and they split it into two groups. The first group of rats were allowed to play, and the second groups of rats were not allowed to play. Now you're going to say to me, Portia, how do they know whether or not the rats have had a good time? So, you know, I've looked into this, and it turns out that if you pick up a rat and you tickle it under its chin, it emits this high squeaking noise of delight. And that's how you know it's enjoying itself. So in this first group, they had rats that played, and in the second group, they had rats that didn't play. And in this experiment, they had a room, and in this room, there was a mouse hole, right? So they then released the first group of rats into the room, and after that, they released a cat, okay? So the first group of rats, the ones that played, scuttled into the mouse hole, okay? And they repeated this experiment with the rats that didn't play. So my question to you now is, what do you think happened to that first group after the cat was removed from the room? Guesses?
They came out to play.
They came out to play, yeah. Other guesses? What else?
I might be wrong, but they probably just stayed inside because they didn't know if the cat was there or not.
And this was the first group who played?
Oh shit, no, second group.
Okay, great. Okay, so the second, so we've got guesses, yeah. So the second group didn't play, and you think they stayed in the hole because they weren't sure if the threat had gone? Yeah, so that's absolutely what happened. And more importantly, the rats never came out ever again, that second group, because they couldn't tell when the threat had gone. Yeah. So there's a lot we can learn from nature. So if I were to summarize what play is, because I said there's no stereotype, you know, there are some attributes we can look at. Well, it's these three very friendly Fs, I would say, much friendlier than your usual Fs, which is a fun, flexible, and freely chosen. You can't go wrong pretty much if you have this. And often when I give talks on play, people come up to me afterwards a bit sheepishly going, well, you know, I stay up till really late playing Minesweeper. Is that play? Fair enough, no judgment, right? So I said, do you enjoy it? And they say yes. And I say, are you getting enough sleep? And they go, not so much. And I might ask, what happens when you lose? And then they'll go, I get really angry and I feel compelled to like kill my phone, and that's why I'm on my 6th phone. Right? So you tell me if that's fun, flexible, and freely chosen. Yeah, so again, there's a dark side to play, and there's that element of sustainable pace and just self-awareness and self-management as well. So it's not easy being a good playmaker. So I'd like you now to stand up again. Still working off that pizza. Okay, so just watch your beers. Okay, bit of coordination there. So when was the last time you played? Okay, at work. So if you played in the last month at work, stay standing, otherwise sit down. If you played last week at work, stay standing. Okay, at this point it's really useful just to eyeball the people around you, because you might want to have a drink with them afterwards to say, oh, how do you keep playing like that? And for those of you who played today before coming here at work, stay standing. Yeah, again, still just have a really good look, right? And this is the thing, so many things about Agile. Grab a seat. Well done everybody. Grab a seat if you were sitting. You don't have to sit. Thank you for playing. And this is the thing, right? Play has so many parallels with Agile, because at the end of the day, you're either practicing or you're not, and it's a mindset, right? It's the way you make decisions, it's the way you do your work. So being a playful Agile researcher, and there aren't many of those, by the way, along the x-axis is the desire to play, and along the y-axis is the know-how. So I've just created a model to sort of express what I was starting to see. And I call them sort of play types, but it doesn't mean it defines you. It depends on the context, and you can be a mishmash of some of these, right? So the type ones are can play and they want to play. They're the ones that bring cool things into the office and get everyone, you know, happy and repairing relationships and having conversations. Then you get the type twos, those who can't play but they want to play. So at lunchtime when they hear the sound of the rustle of cellophane, they come over and go, what you doing? What's that? Is that snack? Should we go out for lunch? You know? And they're really up for it. They're ready to go, but they just maybe don't have the for whatever reason. They don't kind of know how to get on with it, but they definitely have the desire. Then you have the type threes, those who can play and won't to play, and these are typically the people who might say, you see that ladder in this company, I shall be CEO before I'm 29 and create history. I play, of course I play, can you not see I'm so playful? I play on Saturdays and Sundays where I kick everybody's butt at golf, and yeah, I'm absolutely ace. I just choose not to play at work because I want a career. Don't you understand? Right? So that tends to be people who can play, but they choose not to. And last but not least, you have the type fours, those who can't play and won't play. So these might be people who have stopped playing out of habit, possibly being shamed for being playful, or they may never have learned. Right? So again, this is this curious thing about play, is that whilst it is innate in our nature to explore and move and discover, with play it also becomes a habit, and it's socially so important for us as creatures. We're social creatures, that if our environment isn't conducive to play, we might kind of just block out that part of ourselves as well. Okay, so I'd like you to have a quick go at what I've created. This is called the Play Index. You can just do this in your head. You don't have to look at your phones, and we can make the slides available. I'd just like you to kind of look through the 10 statements and just assign either a 1, 2, 3, or 4 to it. So just take a moment to do that in your heads. Okay. So at this point, some people are going to be eyeing me with suspicion and say, well, there's a problem here, Portia. Your play index has nothing to do with play. Well, this is the thing, right? If it's not a stereotype, how do you measure it? So I chose to measure it by outcome and by visible behaviors that you would actually see as a consequence of enough true play. So if we look at that, cognitive development, physical development, social development, emotional development, those are the 4 key elements in child development, and that is the same for adults. So when we have played enough, you'll naturally score relatively high on the play index, and there is no middle ground, right? I basically reuse the method of scoring for measuring hope, in case you were interested, and that's the key thing, right? To recognize that there is no middle ground, you have to decide one way or the other. And the index isn't about judgment, it's simply knowing where you are in your relationship with play. So, what's the opposite of play? Pop quiz. Let's shout out some answers. Work. Thank you. That was very brave. I rarely get that. People kind of dance around it a lot. Great. Well done. Get the taboo out there. Anything else? What's the opposite of work?
Conflict.
Conflict. Thank you. What else?
Boredom.
Boredom. Thank you. Anything else?
Stress.
Stress. What else?
Fear.
Fear. Let's do another one. One more. Anger. So we can see there's a lot. It's a bit of an emotional cauldron, isn't it? So imagine a world where there are no movies, no jokes, no music, no stories, no fairy tales, no fantasies. What are we left with?
North Korea.
Gentleman said North Korea. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's have a look at this. So the really good news is that according to Dr. Stuart Brown's research, play and work are not opposites. Phew! So you can still rock up to work tomorrow morning. In fact, you can bounce your way into work. And he notices that with play, it leads to creativity and innovation, which in turn leads to invention and growth, right? And we look at successful brands like Apple, like Google, etc. Work also leads to creativity and innovation, which in turn leads to invention and growth. But more curiously, what jumped out at me was that work gives you purpose and competence, which he found in his research that play does not necessarily give you. And I delved into this notion of purpose a little bit more because I got to, I've been sort of doing 20 years in IT. It sounds like prison, doesn't it? But it's not. I love what I do. And this word purpose, I started exploring it a little bit more. And I'm Chinese, and I was reading this book called Living Organizations. And the author translated the word business, sang yi in Cantonese. It's sang yi, and it literally means meaning of life. So we've encoded it in our language. That is apparently something similar in Swedish as well. And so our ancient cultures knew this. They encoded it for us, and then we forgot about it, right? And we end up going, oh, it doesn't work, suck. So on this quick note, I know we're just running a bit behind. I just want to show you this quick video of what work and play looks like. Could you just hold that for a minute? Thank you, Danny. So, oh, my mouse is gone. Alan. Do I need to? I obviously can't. Is that too hard?
Just jump for the other one. Where's your mouse gone?
I know, the mouse is gone. Oh yes, oh you're good at this.
No, what?
And then play there.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
Maybe your clicker. Is this your clicker?
Yes.
I'll pull the clicker and then I'll bring
You're
that back.
very resourceful. I couldn't find them. Oh, look, they can see the mouse. Oh, this is going to be...
Mouse is up there? Oh, multiple screens. Okay.
Uh-oh. We might just not be able
hang on,
to...
we're getting there. That one.
Yeah. And then you've got to just expand it if you can. Okay. Thank you. Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't work. It's a screen thing. Let's not give up. Resourcefulness is a key thing by playmakers. If you can get it up there, we can bring up the display. I think it's done the split screen, hasn't it? It's just up there. Sorry, could you just... You're the most beautiful assistant I've had.
So guys, I'm not a Mac expert, but if there is one, we'll...
Yeah, we're good. Display. There we go. I think it's just like this, and then it's like this. Yay!
Yes, that'll do it. I'm sure.
There we go. Has it worked? Yes? Has that worked?
It's coming, it's coming.
Super duper. Is that, oh gosh, what's that? So let's try that. Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just get it max sound. Do you want to see that again? Just, okay. Sorry, that's about the suspense. It's like a weird Christmas calendar thing going on. Right, keep your eyes peeled.
Mike.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, wow, I heard it. Yes, absolutely. The things you could be spending your time doing. That was work, was it not? Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think she spent her summers doing? Well, it looked fun to her, did it not? She wouldn't keep doing it if it weren't fun. And this is another secret of play that I've noticed, is that as you get more advanced, as if there is such a thing, or maybe engrossed in play, you use that element of work, that purpose, to drive you forward to achieve greater things, and it's still playful. So I know this sounds really strange, but in my career now, I've noticed that actually work is just easy. Not like I'm not being challenged. Oh, absolutely. You know, speaking at Agile 2019 to 1,500 people about play and getting them to do head, shoulders, knees, and toes, that is not easy, right? We all agree on that. But my goodness, was it fun, you know? So we talked about the opposite of play, and we've seen the play and work combination. This is the thing, you have to work hard to play. Another paradox. So what is the opposite of play? Well, when the screens come on, bear with me. Ooh. Awkward. Okay, so it turns out the opposite of play is depression. So when I told one of my friends this, and he was like, he's a technical architect, he went, well, that's great news. And I was like, okay, what part of this is good news? And he said, well, you know, for the type 1s who can play and want to play, they're pretty away from the red line, as are the type 2s who can't play but want to play because they know to get topped up when they're running low. Well, with the type 3s and type 4s, if they know they're edging towards that red line, they can now do something about it. And I can call you, right, he says, when I need to play. And I said, absolutely, that's what friends are for. So again, the social relationships, right? That is what we're trying to teach our children, what we're trying to share with our colleagues, because without doing that, when we do get into a tight spot, how will we overcome it? Okay, so now I'd like you just to turn to your neighbor, and in just about 30 seconds each, share with them, and hopefully someone you don't know, share with them your favorite childhood toy. You have 30 seconds each, go. Favorite childhood toy?
Sorry?
I'm Portia. What's your favorite childhood toy? Did you have one?
No.
What did you do? What was your favorite thing as a child to do?
Robots?
Oh, did you make them or you played with them?
Played.
You played with them. And do you remember, was there one robot?
Sorry?
Was there one particular robot?
Yeah, you know, Transformer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember Transformers. Excellent, excellent. Thank you for playing. Okay, so how do you feel now as opposed to before we talked about your favorite childhood toy? How would you describe how you feel now?
Happier.
Happier? What else?
Joyful.
Joyful? What else?
Nostalgic.
Younger? Nostalgic? Two more. Lighter.
Energized.
Inspired, energized. Good work for moving out of that chair. So this is the thing, right? With play and your brain is not that clever. It didn't know that was a memory. So you got the same endorphin hits as you would if you'd actually lived that memory in real time. Right? And that's why when work may be a bit sucky on that day, I mean, this is a big assumption on my part, obviously. You could have, fantastic days at work. When days may just not be so playful, finding a friend or just evoking a memory of play or even just asking them this question, if they're close enough to you, will help you feel better and therefore help you restore that sense of resourcefulness to get you through the day. So why should adults play? It's the same reason that animals and children play, right? In this case, it breaks down barriers between people. It opens the mind to enable learning again. It opens the heart to create a connection. So hopefully, you feel a little bit warmer to this stranger now that you know what their favorite childhood toy is. And it might even be the same toy as yours, right? How cool is that? It's a source of joy and a source of hope. So I actually work with adult day centers and social workers who work with adults with severe special needs, right? And it's so easy to forget to play at work when we're in certain circumstances. And that's why, when we start discovering these things about individuals that we sit next to every day, you start seeing them as human beings again, and you can learn to care about them, right? Rather than be running on empty all the time. So one of the things I've observed is that people who play together stay together, right? So that's something really to think about deeply, especially with your spouses or spouses-to-be. So we're coming to the last part of the talk then. It's about your play future. And I promised to talk a little bit about the history of play. So this is really, a long timeline, and I had to crop it at some place. So in the Middle Ages, play at worst was deemed as evil and children were beaten, right, for not working. But they were just children and they were exploring, and that is how we learn. And when you think about when we did the most learning, it was during our childhood. It's probably less likely that you're doing the most learning now unless you're really lucky, right, or hardworking, so you do work and play. Then we had our own John Locke, the philosopher, and he talked about anti-corporal punishment, and that is beating children. He said we need to stop beating our children in schools. Then in 1825, the son of a sea biscuit manufacturer came up with the idea of 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So for those of you who haven't had too much beer, you'll notice that only one of those words begins with R. And it continues to haunt us today. I'm like, what is that about, right? And the problem is we write people off if they don't speak very well, or they don't have very good elocution, do they? Or, oh, well, it's a sign of their intelligence. I'd like to challenge, what exactly are we judging here? And then in 1916, we came up with the idea of IQ by actually a lovely Frenchman, and he invented it in order to help underprivileged children to get a better education. And what did we do? We grabbed it, sharpened it, turned it into a stick, and stabbed everybody to let them know how stupid they really ought to think they are. Then, of course, there was Lego in 1932. And in 1983, we did have a massive big change, right? If we look at how long it took us to do this in terms of 3 R's and multiple intelligence is almost 160 years. The idea that reading, writing, and arithmetic isn't the only way to measure intelligences, right? And we'll come back to this. And then in 1990, EQ, right? So all of a sudden, actually, self-awareness counts. Well done. It's not just navel-gazing. Yeah? And the UN then created something called the Article 31, the right to play, because we were becoming too urbanized as a country, as cities, and we created playgrounds for children. And then Dr. Stuart Brown wrote his book on play in 2010. And then the UN said in 2013, hey, listen, communities, you are not taking this whole play thing seriously, and children are underperforming at schools because they aren't getting enough outdoor play. And that's why you'll see this push in your local area to create more playgrounds. And it's really important as a responsible citizen and adult that you actively take children to the playground and not just put them in front of the telly. Then in 2014, I came across this idea of play IQ because I figured out Well, if there is something called IQ and EQ, what if this is the ultimate reason we should play? And I Googled it, and it was actually a term coined by a Scottish play researcher called play intelligence, and we'll come back to that too. And looking at all this in 2016, I decided to bite the bullet, put my money where my mouth is, and I started the school of play. And you know, at the time I got a business mentor, because you're like, oh well, I'm a startup, I should do this. And you know what he said to me at our very first meeting? He said, Portia, you will never get adults to come and play. And you only need to look at the tube adverts. Every single one is an invitation to play the tube adverts, right? So we ended there, really, our relationship. Okay, so multiple intelligences. We're getting very close to the end. So, like I said, right, not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Did you know that being able to grow a tomato plant from a tomato seed, that is an intelligence? Mine go moldy. I do exactly the same thing, and my husband calls me a bonsai murderer. So I have to only admire them from afar. Like I said, right, being able to self-manage your emotions, recognize them, deal with them. Bingo, you get points for that. And of course, being able to actually manage your relationships with other people, interpersonal intelligence, another point scoring activity for yourself, right? Tick, tick, tick. And these are things we probably always know, but the adults or the people around us did not recognize it and did not give us credit for it. And I think this is why you have to decide if you're going to choose to play. So Dr. Finlay discovered this idea of a meta-intelligence, that these multiple intelligences, of which there are like more than 70 now, all have a similar basis, and this is the idea of the play IQ. So if we look at the lifelong learning cycle, this is from an event called the Curiosity Carousel. And I just wanted to sort of describe, look at the adults' faces, right? So we start with anticipation. So you've got a really, really serious look from Stefan there. He's really concentrating on how to do loom banding. Clearly a very important life skill. Then we have my friend Paul there. He's surprised. He's like, wow, this is much harder than I ever imagined. Okay. Then we have my friend Will there, pleasure. At going, oh right, this is just like programming, right? No wonder we were all into creating looms way back when. And then we have understanding, right? Going, okay, yeah, I can do this. Maybe I can kind of vary it a little bit and we get something else. Then we get mastery, where we start showing each other how we can improve. And then last but not least, we have the ladies here demonstrating and modeling their wonderful loom bands, right? And that is poise. And that is so similar to the learning cycle, but it's actually the play process, right? So when people say that agile transformations, I don't really care what we call them, right? But when they say, oh, it's full of pain and suffering and it's the only way we can do that through coercion, I'm like, well, here's a really good alternative, and it's not that hard, but it does require you to be authentic in yourself. So let's do one more exercise before we go tonight. Because we're so visual, for this to really work, I would recommend you close your eyes. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to leave the lights on. But if you wish, then you can close your eyes and I'll read out this exercise, okay? Suppose tonight, while you slept, a miracle occurred. When you awake tomorrow, what would be some of the things you would notice that would tell you that your life had suddenly become more playful? Now keep your eyes closed. Have a good look around, maybe a little sniff as well, maybe a little taste, see what's in the air. What can you hear around you, right? Really use our 5 senses, because how often do we do that at work? Yeah. Okay, have a really good look around and listen, okay, and feel it. Right, when you're ready, open your eyes. So let's just have a quick share. What did you see? What did you feel? What did you experience if your life was more playful? Just one from each, from different people. Go. Thank you.
A smile in the mirror.
A smile in the mirror. And you know, there's this pencil trick you can do to, you know, to do that, to keep your pencil up. Excellent. Thank you. A smile in the mirror.
People to play with.
People to play with.
I heard children playing in the playground.
Oh, you heard children playing in the playground. The other day, I went past a playground quite by chance. I do like going playground hunting. And I saw this elderly couple, and they went on the merry-go-round. I was like, oh my God, am I allowed to take a picture? This is so inspiring. And then I saw that the grandmother actually had a grandchild in front of her, and that was why she went on it. But you know, I take people to playgrounds and swings, and they'll tell me, I've not been on this for 50 years. but it's a choice, right? It's a choice. So I always make sure I have a good swing, even if I get a dirty look from the parents who are waiting because their children want to have a go. Right? So it's really important to keep yourselves topped up. So to wrap up, your recommended daily amount of play then, 5 or 10 minutes is all you need. So that's the equivalent to a cigarette break, and you could choose not to inhale. You could choose to invite a friend who doesn't smoke and play with them, perhaps. Something different to do. 1 day of play lasts up to a week, and that's why weekends are the way that most of us recharge. And the key thing here is little and often. So just as binge programming is not good for your health, or binge watching Games of Thrones, you might just want to do it little and often, just like play. So to play for your life, the opposite of play is depression. The recommended daily amount of play is 10 to 15 minutes a day at work and at school and at home, because you need to, it's good to practice. Develop your play intelligence little and often, and all play. So like I said, I'll share these slides. Let's just do a quick test of the talk then. If you agree, raise your hand. I have a working knowledge of play. I can explain the importance of play. I love the way the cameraman waves too. They always do. I have 1 or more ideas to play more. And this is where like the post-event beers can help as well if you don't have ideas, or share them. And you've had fun. Yay! So my latest adventure at the moment is I've taken the play science, the psychology, the coaching, the neuroscience, and created this concept of playful leadership, how you can discover your authentic way of leading by getting to know your playful preferences and your playful self. And that's why the leadership becomes authentic. And that's what I meant when work becomes easy. Not because you're not still working hard at becoming, top Jedi or whatever it is, right? It's just that it is the true you. So you don't have to pretend anymore to be anything else. Okay, so the last quote I'd like to leave you with then is, we don't stop playing because we grow old, but we grow old because we stop playing. So thank you for playing today.